Just give us a small heads up of what happened at which year and what all happened.
Certainly. Just it's just a huge irony that this is coming from the North American leadership, because actually in the late 80s, Lokanatha Maharaj single-handedly saved the entire North American yatra. And what the history is, in 1987, I went to Padayatra. We went from Delhi up to Badrinath, Kedarnath, and in Joshimath, Lokanatha Maharaj had asked me to help start Padayatra outside of India in America. So we originally went to Boston. We were going to start where Prabhupada landed on the Jaladuta. But Badri Narayan Maharaj, he got in touch with me and said, we heard that you and Lokanatha Maharaj want to organize Padayatra in America. We have a serious legal problem on our hands. We're about to lose the temples. Would you consider coming to California and do Padayatra in California? What had happened was the devotees, a devotee called Nityananda, had taken a young girl who was a minor and wanted to marry her and hid her from her parents. And her father had a heart attack. And the Supreme Court of California had filed a $32 million judgment against ISKCON. And it had put all the major Leela stans in North America into receivership. That's what the courts did. So they were panicking because they didn't have the money. And they were going to lose the main temples: Los Angeles, San Diego, Laguna, Dallas, New York, Toronto. So he asked that you come and do Padayatra in America, in California, and you make the theme about the Robin George case, about this judgment. So ISKCON tried legally to appeal to the Supreme Court. They knocked it down somewhat to 10 million, but still, this was the late 80s. 10 million is about 50 million in modern dollars, and there was no money in North America. So we did Padayatra in America, and we made the theme, prayer is not a crime. And we walked down the coast of California. This is all under Lokanatha Maharaj's direction. And we had an advance party team go with press releases to the local newspapers to talk about this unfair court case and how the temples were threatened. And when we arrived in Los Angeles for Rath Yatra, we had big coverage in the Los Angeles Times, which ISKCON had never gotten favorable coverage. So in order to pay for Rath Yatra, for Padayatra, myself and Lokanatha Maharaj and another devotee called Judd Barrett, we traveled around temples in California, and we did fundraisers at the Sunday feasts. Lokanatha Maharaj would give an appeal, and I would get on the mic. So it was somewhat successful. So then near the end of Padayatra in America, Badri Narayan and Anutama Prabhu, they approached them. They said, look, we want to make a special appeal to Lokanatha Maharaj. We want to appeal to the Supreme Court of the United States. It's the only way that it's going to work. So then it was in North America, and we raised $250,000 for the legal defense fund to appeal to the Supreme Court. Lokanatha Maharaj he canceled all his activities, his preaching in India, and all to stay in North America to serve the GBC in this important mission. And he would appeal to all the people. Like, his speaking was amazing. He inspired the devotees. We must save these temples, Prabhupada's temples in North America. So then we received the money. The appeal went to the Supreme Court. Then we went to do Padayatra in Mexico, from Guadalajara to Mexico City, and they started the appeal. So then they realized in America, when you appeal to the Supreme Court, very few cases will be heard. They only listen to a fraction. And what they do is they put the cases in line in a queue, and they only decide on a few of them, only if they're constitutionally relevant. Otherwise, they won't hear it. So there was some interest we heard. So then Amarendra, who was doing the legal appeal to the Supreme Court, asked Lokanatha Maharaj, would he bring his entire Padayatra crew, all his disciples and all the Padayatris, to stay in Washington, D.C. in the middle of winter and man a 24-hour prayer vigil, kirtan, in front of the National Archives building in the middle of winter, in the coldest cold, 24-hour with big candles and a huge sign behind us saying, prayer is not a crime. So Lokanatha Maharaj was, yeah, of course, we'll do it to save the temples. So we all drove in our Padayatra bus to Washington. We did shifts and we did kirtan in the middle of winter, all through the night with these candles and the sun. And sometimes limousines would pass by and Secret Service and government vehicles would look at us. And we would preach to different congressmen, Republicans, Democrats. And then ultimately, it was a complete miracle. We had a huge demonstration in Washington, D.C. We got the whole Indian community in North America to come in buses. Lokanatha Maharaj led the whole thing. And then we got a press release that the Supreme Court, in an unprecedented move, Sandra Day O'Connor, she was a Catholic Supreme Court judge. They called the case out of queue to hear it immediately. So they listened to the case and they gutted it. The Supreme Court ruled that the case was completely unconstitutional. It was punitive against the Hare Krishna movement. And they throwed it back to the lower courts and it became just like a very small judgment that the ISKCON could pay, and it saved all the temples. And you could literally, it is not an understatement to say that Lokanatha Maharaj, because of the goodness of his heart to care about North America preaching, he literally saved the North American Yatra.
Oh,